Close your eyes for a moment. Now, picture the person you want to become. Can you see them? Maybe they're confident, healthy, successful. They wake up early, they're disciplined, they have their life together. Now, open your eyes and be honest with yourself. How far are you from that person right now? That distance you feel? That's what I call the gap. And today, we're going to talk about why this gap exists, why it feels so painful, and most importantly, how to actually cross it. First, let's understand what this gap really is. The gap isn't just about goals. It's deeper than that. It's the difference between your current identity and your aspirational identity. It's who you are versus who you wish you were. And here's what nobody tells you. This gap is supposed to exist. Every single person who's ever achieved anything meaningful had to cross their own gap. The difference is, some people get stuck staring at it, while others start building a bridge. The gap exists in every area of life. Maybe there's a gap in your career. You're working a job you tolerate, but you dream of doing something that matters. Maybe there's a gap in your health. You know what you should be eating and doing, but your current habits tell a different story. Maybe it's relationships, finances, creativity. Wherever you look, you can probably find a gap. And that gap, it hurts. It creates this constant low-level anxiety. Every time you scroll social media and see someone living your dream life, every time you look in the mirror, every time you promise yourself, tomorrow I'll start, and tomorrow never comes. But here's the thing most people miss. The pain of the gap isn't the problem. The pain is actually information. It's your internal compass telling you that you're not aligned with who you want to be. So why does crossing this gap feel so impossible? There are three main reasons, and once you understand them, everything changes. Reason one, we overestimate the leap. When you look at that future version of yourself, your brain sees one giant leap. You think, I need to transform my entire life. I need to become a completely different person. I need to change everything at once. And that feels overwhelming, paralyzing even. So you don't start, or you start with massive enthusiasm, try to change everything in week one, burn out, and quit. But here's the truth. Nobody crosses the gap in one leap. Nobody. The people you admire who seem to have it all together, they cross their gap one small step at a time. But we only see their after picture, not the 1,000 tiny decisions that got them there. Reason two, the gap actually grows when you don't move. Here's something nobody talks about. The gap isn't static. If you stand still, it gets wider. Think about it. Every day you don't work on yourself, your future self moves a little further away. The habits you want to build become harder to start. The person you want to become feels more like a fantasy than a possibility. Meanwhile, you're building different habits. Habits of procrastination, habits of comfort, habits that widen the gap instead of closing it. The gap has momentum. It's either closing or opening. There is no neutral. Reason three, we're afraid of the middle. The gap has three phases: the start, the middle, and the finish. The start is exciting. New beginnings, fresh motivation, anything feels possible. The finish is rewarding. You've arrived, you've become that person. But the middle is messy. It's unclear. You've left who you were, but you haven't yet become who you want to be. You're in between identities. You're not good enough yet, but you're no longer comfortable in your old life. And that middle phase, that's where most people quit. They return to the familiar, even if the familiar is unfulfilling, because at least it's certain. But the middle is where the transformation happens. The middle is where you earn the new identity. All right, so how do we actually cross this gap? How do we build the bridge? I'm going to give you a framework that's changed my life and the lives of thousands of people I've worked with. Step 1, make the gap visible and specific. You can't cross a gap you can't see clearly. Most people have a vague sense of dissatisfaction, but no clear picture of what's actually wrong. Get specific. Write down 2 columns, current reality and desired reality. Be brutally honest about where you are and crystal clear about where you want to be. Not, I want to be healthy. That's too vague. Instead, current reality, I eat fast food 4 times a week and don't exercise. Desired reality, I meal prep on Sundays and work out 3 times a week. See the difference? When you make it specific, the gap becomes a problem you can actually solve. Step 2, identify your first 2% action. Here's the secret. You don't need to change your whole life tomorrow. You need to change 2% today. What's the smallest action that moves you toward your goal? Not the ideal action, not the impressive action, the smallest one. If your gap is fitness, your 2% might be doing 5 push-ups today. If it's writing, it might be writing 1 paragraph. If it's confidence, it might be making eye contact with 1 stranger. The 2% action is so small it feels almost pointless. Good. That means you'll actually do it. And once you do it, you've proven something to yourself. I'm the kind of person who takes action. That's identity change right there. Step 3, stack small wins. 1 2% action won't close the gap, but 2% repeated becomes 4%, then 8%, then 16%. Compound interest isn't just for money, it's for identity. This is why consistency beats intensity every time. The person who writes 15 minutes a day will write more than the person who writes 8 hours once a month. The gap isn't closed by heroic efforts, it's closed by showing up. Create a simple tracking system. A calendar, a notebook, an app, doesn't matter. Just mark off each day you complete your 2% action. Watch the chain grow. The chain itself becomes motivation. Step 4, embrace identity-shifting language. Here's something powerful. Start using present tense identity statements. Don't say, I want to be a writer. Say, I'm a writer who's developing their craft. Don't say, I'm trying to get healthy. Say, I'm a healthy person who's building new habits. This isn't fake positivity. It's not pretending you're someone you're not. It's claiming the identity you're actively building. Every small action is evidence of this identity. Step 5, expect and plan for the middle. Remember that messy middle I talked about? Don't be surprised when you hit it. Expect it. There will be days when you don't feel motivated, days when you question if it's worth it, days when the gap seems just as wide as when you started. On those days, your job isn't to feel good, your job is to show up anyway. Do your 2% even when it feels pointless, especially when it feels pointless. Because here's what's actually happening in the middle. You're rewiring your brain. You're building new neural pathways. You're becoming someone new at a cellular level. That takes time and it feels uncomfortable. The uncomfortability isn't a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're changing. Now, here's something that might surprise you. The goal isn't actually to close the gap completely. Wait, what? Let me explain. When you reach your goal, let's say you've built that habit, you've achieved that milestone, you've become more like that person you wanted to be. Something interesting happens. You look around and realize there's a new gap. Because growth creates new vision. The person you become has new dreams, new possibilities. The gap doesn't disappear, it evolves. And this is actually beautiful. It means you're never done growing. You're never stuck. There's always another level. The goal isn't to eliminate the gap. The goal is to get comfortable crossing it. To become someone who sees a gap and thinks, okay, I know how to do this. I've done it before. I can do it again. Think of it like this. You're not trying to reach a destination where you can finally relax and stop growing. You're trying to become the kind of person who enjoys the journey, who finds meaning in the process, who understands that the gap is where life happens. The amateur looks at the gap and sees an obstacle. The professional looks at the gap and sees an invitation. Here's what I want you to understand. Right now, in this moment, you're building evidence of who you are. Every action is a vote for your identity. The version of you that you want to become, they're not a different person. They're you, but with different habits. They're you, but with consistent action stacked over time. They're you, but on the other side of the gap. And the bridge across? You're building it with every small decision, every time you choose the 2% action over comfort, every time you show up when you don't feel like it,
every time you keep your promise to yourself. You are the bridge. So let me leave you with this. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't your enemy, it's your compass. It's showing you the direction of your growth. And you don't need to cross it tomorrow. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the first small step today. What's your 2% action? What's the one small thing you can do today that moves you even slightly toward the person you want to become? Maybe it's 10 minutes of that skill you want to learn. Maybe it's one healthy meal. Maybe it's sending that message you've been putting off. Maybe it's just writing down your current reality and desired reality. Whatever it is, do it today. Not because it will close the gap immediately, but because it will prove to yourself that you're the kind of person who takes action. And then tomorrow, do it again. And the next day. And the next. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize the gap is smaller. You'll realize you're not the same person who started this journey. You'll realize that the gap didn't close because you made one giant leap. It closed because you built a bridge, one small decision at a time. The person you want to become is waiting on the other side, and they're worth every small step it takes to get there. The gap is real. The gap is painful, but the gap is crossable. So what are you waiting for? Start building your bridge today. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear what your 2% action is going to be. Leave a comment below. And if you want more content like this on personal growth and mental health, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember, you're not broken for having a gap. You're human, and humans grow. That's what we do. Now go build your bridge. I'll see you in the next one.